Ladies and gentlemen, Jay Haft here. I'm at the Exonia Tractor Show, and it's in Ashburn, Wisconsin. And I met an interesting man here named Dan, and he's got some amazing stuff here. And we're gonna let you introduce yourself.
Morning. My name is Daniel, and what I do is some history on World War II military things. This is just part of my collection. I do a lot of stuff also with the fighters and the bombers from World War II. But basically, what we have here is 30 caliber machine gun. This is the model 1919 that was adopted by the government in 1919, basically. It was modified from the World War I water-cooled 1917. They took the water jacket off, they lightened it up, so now the infantry could easily carry something that weighed 20-25 pounds, separated from the tripod, and one guy could carry the gun, one guy could carry a tripod, and everybody would carry ammo. Basically, you see in the movies how they run. Well, let's see how they actually do work. This would be how the ammo would be linked. The originals were 30-06. Later they were modified to 7.62 NATO, which is the same as 308. You have the ammo. It simply lays in there. You close it up. Now you double cock it, pulls it in. You're now loaded, ready to fire. These were full auto. In other words, you pull the trigger, and as long as you hold the trigger, and as long as you have ammo, it keeps on firing. The links come out the side, and empties come out the bottom. One interesting thing is, you think, yeah, you just pull and fire. Well, there's a lot to there. If you get a close-up here, you see where the ammo is up on this level. Well, how does it get down to actually into the chamber? Now, if this works, it pulls it out, and when it gets all the way to the back, it drops down, and there's the chamber, and loads in. Comes back up. This would be advanced and get the next one.
So you're ready to fire now.
So you're ready to fire again. So this would cycle, depending upon the model, somewhere around 450 to 600 rounds per minute.
Wow.
And you see how these are linked together. Well, it's kind of a neat little system. And like I said, the empties come out the bottom, so there it is. The way these go together is you have these metal links simply in there. That fits in there.
That's how you load it, huh?
That's basically how they're put together. All of this stuff would be done by machine, of course. This I can demonstrate because it's small and easy to do. But that basically, Browning designed all of these. Well, after World War I, you needed something bigger because you put more armor plate on your Jeep, and I couldn't punch holes in it with this anymore. So stop and think about this. 100 years ago, mid-1920s, the government said we needed a bigger gun. So they went back to Browning, and Browning designed the 50 caliber Browning machine gun. The M2, Madus, a bunch of other nicknames for it. But basically, if you open this thing up, and you look at the inside, it's the exact same thing as the 1919. The same operating style, has same operating type, they just made it bigger. So you stop and think about that. Late 20s, around 1930 is when this was accepted by the government as their new heavy machine gun. Used in World War II, mounted in all of our fighters, our bombers, our tanks, trucks, jeeps. This was our basic machine gun. Korea, Vietnam, and today, this gun is still in use today, virtually unchanged.
No kidding. It's amazing.
After 100 years. So the design that Browning had was good. And it worked, and it still works. Now, one thing you may have noticed, all the pretty colors on the tips on the bullets. Did the government just put so they look pretty, or what was the function of that? Well, there was actually a purpose to it. The color of the tip indicates the type of bullet. No paint is called ball ammo. It's just a lead core inside. That was your full metal jacket, your cheap bullet. Black tip is armor piercing. 50 is designed to go through almost 1 inch of armor plate at 100 yards. Silver, you like starting fires?
Incendiary.
Armor piercing incendiary.
Wow.
You're going after fuel tanks or something flammable, I punch a hole in it and I start it on fire. Then you get to the red or orange, those would be your tracers. That'd be the bullets that you can actually see flying and you follow. Little phosphorus compound in the end that ignites when it's fired. This is a red and a silver, so it's an armor piercing incendiary tracer.
Wow.
Every fifth one is generally a tracer.
It's amazing.
Most of these guns, well, like I said, and these didn't have safeties on them. Some of them had sights on. But if you're going after a moving target, fast moving target, to try and do the peak sight there and there to line up and follow something, that ain't gonna happen, as they say. So you follow the tracers. You can see where the bullets are flying, and you just basically follow the tracers. These would cycle at 600 rounds a minute for the ground mounts. The ones that they mounted in the fighters and the bombers, your aircraft, were cycling at about 850 a minute.
Wow.
Now,
That's a lot of lead.
a lot of lead. And why? Why did they want so much at one time? Stop and think about it. You're in a fight, or you're moving, or you're strafing. You're going, with the fighters, you're going maybe 350 miles an hour, give or take. Your enemy is going something like that. You're back and forth. How long are you actually on target? Second, maybe give or take a little bit. But you want a massive amount of lead out there. So either you hit it or he runs into it, and hopefully you get a kill.
Yeah, that's amazing. You're just a wealth of knowledge, Dan.
So that's basically kind of the way these operated and what they were used for. But the fact that it's basically the same gun in use today,
That's amazing.
unchanged.
Yeah. But it's well built and heavy duty, and
Yeah. It was designed and it was built and it worked.
like the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it, right?
That was basically it. And yes, they did try to do some changes over the years, making a quick change barrel. These barrels simply screw in, so it's easy enough to change a barrel. They actually, in combat, had kits where you had spare barrels, asbestos gloves, and they had to have what they call a headspace gauge. They screwed it in, you had to gauge it to get it right. Now they've made it so that it's like a quick change barrel where you hit a lever, it pops out, you just pop the next one in. It's a little quicker. But the receiver itself is still pretty much the same.
Yeah, it's amazing. He's got kind of a display here of it says bullet penetration demonstration.
Yeah. A lot of controversy as far as power of different weapons, especially your rifles and that. We hear so much about the high-powered AR-15. Well, AR-15 is Armalite Rifle Company Model 15 is the correct term for it. And the ammo, 5.56 NATO. That's the guy that it actually is.
I see it has an orange tip on it, huh?
This happened to be one of my rounds that I loaded up as a hunting round.
Okay.
Normally the military is full metal jacket. This would be the military style. Let me get my fingers out of it. But anyway, so what we got here then is showing a little bit of the difference between the calibers, the different calibers that we had. As long as we're here, we can start out with this. Just doing steel plates to show some of the penetration power.
Is that like 1/4 inch plate?
This is 5/16.
5/16?
Yeah.
Bigger than a quarter.
Yeah. And so this was your 223 or 5.56, where the full metal jacket did penetrate, the hunting round did not, and this is recovered bullets. Well, then you get into the bigger stuff, which would be a 308 or 7.62 NATO, which is the more common in use military round today. These are the,
You go right through it, huh?
yeah. This was a soft point, went through. Here's your armor piercing round.
It's amazing how this one here kind of like mushroomed down this.
Yeah, that's your basically full metal jacket bullet, your military type round that just basically blows apart. Then you get into the armor piercing rounds, where I show you a little bit more there. The jacket comes off and you have a hardened steel core that goes through, and there's another one. That's the inside penetrator that penetrates and goes through. Well, it went through the 5/16, so I think, well, let's try something a little bit heavier. So this is a 3/8 plate. And here you see, this would have been what you would call your AR, your 5.56 rounds. Neither one of them got very close to getting through. Then you go to the 7.62 or the 308, the full metal jacket round, which would have been your military round. Didn't make it through, almost, but didn't. And then you get into the armor piercing round, and that, of course, went through. It broke, but it made it through.
Awesome.
So that indicates a type of power. Now, what happens when you get hit by something like that? I wonder how many people realize that your military ammo is not designed to kill. It's designed to disable. Because if you're disabled, that means you got to have 2 or 3 of your buddies taking care of you.
Huh. I never realized that.
If you're dead, do I care? I just keep right on fighting. So that's the difference. Here's your 223 or 5.56. Entry wounds, exit. Full metal jacket or your ball ammo goes right straight through.
And this here,
This is your hunting round. And you can...
that's made to kill.
Made to kill and destroy. What it does to that block of wood there. And here is actual cutaway where you can see.
Oh, where the side where it went through.
Yes. Entry there. Full metal jacket through there. Through there. You can see it didn't expand. It didn't do anything. Here's your hunting round that expanded and continued to expand as it went through. That's a 223. Here's your 308, which we can commonly call as, your deer hunting round. Entry, and that's as it went through. As it continued to expand. That's the bullet, what it would look like entry, and that's as it expanded and it went through.
It's designed to kill, like it for
Designed
deer,
to kill.
for
Yes.
deer hunting.
Yes.
That's a big bullet there, huh?
Now, some of the other stuff here. West Bend aluminum. You know, that used to make pots, pans, kettles, coffee makers, all that stuff.
Yep.
Beginning of World War II, they couldn't get aluminum. They needed aluminum for making airplanes and other stuff. Now what do? Well, they ended up getting a contract to make 20 millimeter cannon cases, shells. They had the experience doing deep draws, making a tall coffee servers and that type of thing. Well, this is kind of the same thing where you start out with this basically chunk of brass, this puck, as they call it,
And turn that into a shell. Huh?
and turn that into this.
Yeah. It's
The different steps to draw it out.
started kind of like that.
Kind of started there, and as it went down, and there ended up there as that.
That's amazing.
Now, if you're not familiar with it, but you look at it, this is the wrong one. I got a different one. That one that's on there. I got a different one. But anyway, when you look at the heads on the end of the cartridge shell, they're head stamped. That head stamp will tell you where it was made, the year it was made, and what that particular shell was designed for, what type of bullet. And this one is an actual one that was made by West Bend, because it's head stamped the WB.
That's interesting. Yeah.
This is what a finished one would look like, with the bullet added to it.
Bullet and then the gunpowder or whatever. Huh?
The powder, primer, everything completely assembled. But that would have been what it would have looked like when it was finished. And Milwaukee Ordnance. This is another company that nobody really knows about, because what they did is this U.S. rubber company, part of it, and the guy that was in charge of that had another ammunition plant in Iowa, was looking for another plant. They needed facilities to make more stuff, ammo. Well, in this case, this was Schlitz Brewery in Milwaukee. Prohibition came. Couldn't make beer. So what are we going to do? A lot of the breweries in Milwaukee actually started producing candy. Well, they tried the same thing. Elaine's chocolate and cocoa there. Apparently it wasn't very good, because they went bankrupt after a couple of years. The building started empty, and these guys found out about it. They needed the facility. They arranged to rent the place, and 5,000 workers were hired at this plant to produce 50 caliber Browning machine gun ammo, armor piercing only. They were only there for a year. They produced enough ammo, the armor piercing ammo, for the entire war for the United States. Another interesting fact about that is the guy that operated this plant also operated other plants. He liked to hire deaf people because the noise didn't bother them. They weren't distracted by other outside things. And here you have people that are, shall we say, somewhat maybe handicapped. Well, they're out to prove something. I'm as good as you are. I can work as good as you can, maybe even better than you can. So, anyway, that was part of it. But they had a very, very successful year. And like I say, only 1 year, come and gone. How many people really even knew about that the plant was there? So that kind of gives you a little bit of a
So you're a veteran, Dan?
no.
Oh, you're not, but you
No.
you support the veterans.
I do this because of my family heritage. Great-great-grandpa fought in the Napoleon Wars. Great-grandpa was in the Civil War. And I had a lot of relatives in World War II, most of which that didn't come home, and Vietnam that also.
Yeah, Dan, this is an amazing story. You're just a wealth of knowledge, you know, and I appreciate you sharing it with me and the people here in America and around the world. Thank you again, Dan.